I'm Deepak. Today I'm going to talk about functional programming in JavaScript. Uh, Before starting the core concept or the coding, I will brief about what are the tools I'm using it. So right now I'm using Visual Studio, which is very one of the famous IDE for JavaScript or front-end development. So and I have installed a plugin, that code plugin, which helped me to run this all the examples in the runtime. So you can see here I have multiple plugins, but yeah, you can download code plugins from your extension. And so this gives you flexibility. You write your code and you can run it just here, so you don't need any external library or something like that, or you have to go to the command line. Okay, so let's start. So I have created a very basic repo which having included all the source code related to the code. And for so yeah, we can go through, you guys can go through the code and see how it's work. To understand the concept, I have created a very basic PPT, small PowerPoint. Okay, so in this talk, we will talk about some of the core concept, something like self-invoking function, anonymous function, higher order function, and after that, I will show some of the things related to like map, forEach, and some and how it's work and what is the idea behind this function, how we can use to simplify our code. Okay, so why functional programming, and why as a programmer I should use functional, or why I should write code in the functional way. So benefits, there are multiple benefits, few of them are listed here. So one of them is like it's give you more kind of like declarative or clear style of writing of the code, and same time it's easy to maintain, it's give you flavor of lambda calculus, so it's kind of more understand, give you more understanding while when you see the code. Okay, yeah, and same time like this is a simplified debugging, testing and maintenance. Okay, so let's see one of the basic example. So here you can see I have a requirement, I have this 2D array and I want to flatten this array. Sorry, so I want to flatten this array. So how we can do it? So if I have to do in the traditional way or a formatic way, so this is the way we can do it. So we take the array and first we navigate, or we traverse through the first ladder of the array, or first dimension of the array, and take each dimension or each array inside that another nested loop, and we create some kind of like placeholder for the new array which is merged here. So you can see here merged. So yeah, so so if you once you run the code, you can see output of this code and it's worked perfectly. So I will go and run this code. Oh, sure. And just paste the code. I think this one error is missing, so let me add it. Yeah, now let's run. So you can see I got the output, something like flattened output of that two-dimensional array. So what is wrong? First let's check what is the wrong here, what we can improve here. So if you see here, for running this code, for first thing there are multiple issues here. So we created some of the state variable, so something like count and merged, which is anyhow inside the function, so it's not going to impact. But think about like it's hard to manage, and you another things like you're doing something like take another counter, you increasing, so it's very hard to manage. And similarly, like if you have to maintain this kind of code, it will become very complex with the time. So you have lot of things in your eyes to take care of it. So let's see the next version, or maybe we can call a functional version of it. So same code and same thing we can achieve using this function. You can see it here. in the functional way. So here I'm using the reduce method. I will talk more about the reduce function later, but you can see here I can get same output using this code. So let's copy and just run it here. Okay, save it. Yeah, yeah, you can see the output is same. So if you see this code, now we don't have to handle any side effect or something like some wrapper or some placeholder, and same time, and we don't have to care about the counter. The reduce method or the function provided by the native JavaScript will help me to manage those things. Let's go back to the PPT and see. So what make a language suitable for functional programming? So you can see here it's a language which has higher order functions, which supports higher order functions. Is suitable for a functional programming. Same time, function has to be like first class member of the language. Okay, so I will explain all this one by one, and but yeah, for timing, yeah. So lambda is another things in terms of terminology or for understanding. Lambda is like anonymous function which we can pass from one place to another places without defining it or giving a proper structure. So yeah, so if you see the definition, the proper definition of a functional programming language, a functional with a which supports like pure function of functional programming is something programming with the pure function and immutable data and less side effect. So I will explain what is side effect in the future. Now let's understand what is self-invoking function and what is closure. So self-invoking function, if you see here, this is a one function which I have created. Okay, and while creating we are executing this function. And so what is the purpose of creating the self-invoking function or closure? So the purpose in JavaScript, everything is global. Once JavaScript load, everything load on the window. And so how will protect or how will do data protection so that no one can outside of the this scope can modify it. So we have only one scope which is like functional scope. I hope everyone knows. So yeah, so we have only one functional scope, so anything we want to hide it from the outside world, we have to create inside the function. So it's mean like this function, you can see here this function is returning data which is public to the outside of world, and if you want to keep something private you just write before the return, so it's a private to that function. With the new Node.js and like with the new module concept, now we don't have to create a the self-invoking function. We can or create a closure to hide the properties. Now we can hide the properties inside the module. Things will be public, which if you now let's see what is anonymous function. Anonymous function is very simple. A function without a name. So if you define when you define a function, you have to give a name. There are multiple ways you can create a function. This is the very simple function where have like power of the name of the function is power of, and which return a function which doesn't have any name. So I can show you how it look like. So copy this function. If I write it here, and if I console log the function, so let's see what is the output. Here you can see the name of the function. Okay, so it's this function having some name, but let console log this function. So if you see here, there's no name. So yeah, so function without name is called anonymous function. Let's talk about the higher order function. So what is higher order function? So in simple term, a function which can which can take a function as an argument, or a function can return a function in the return, is called higher order function. And so that is a simple definition that you can have. Yep. And pure function is something which doesn't have any external state, a function which doesn't have any external state. So whatever output input you will give, based on that input it will return some output. And so pure function is something like, if you give input a and b, so output will be always c. There will be no difference like unless you change the input a or b to something else. Let's talk about the method chaining. So method chaining is one of the key feature of functional programming. So it's help you to like nest to do like chaining of the function. So it's make you easier to write do multiple things in just a simple line. And you can see here, so in this code I have one array where I'm doing something like reverse of the array, and then concatenating in the reverse array some like 5 and 6 we are concatenating that. And then after that we are doing math, like square root of all those number. So if I copy this function and try to run it, I will comment out the second line. Okay, so if you run it, so here you can see the output. So this output is nothing but the code we have written. Okay, let's see, we can write same code in different way. So here you can see, first we are doing the reverse, then after that after whatever the output, we concate that result, and we concate 5 and 6 with the result of the first program. And after that we did whatever the output of this program, we mapped those and did math square root of things. So let's comment out the first one and let's see the output. Yeah. Here you can see the same output we are getting. So now let's see what are the function available in the our native JavaScript. So the most used function in the JavaScript array is map. So what is map? Map is something like so suppose you have array of 10 element and you want to change the output, change the element inside that array. So you can use this map. So writing a map is very simple. You can write just simply array.map, and you in the second argument, like in the argument you have to pass a function, which function this function will execute as a callback. So for each element, the first element of that function of callback, it will be the data itself, and then second one is which is I here, it represent the index of the current element. And based on the data, like based on the result of the function, the new array will be created, and the new data, the mapped data will be inserted in that array. So here in this function, what I'm trying to do, I take this entire statement and I break it in, or I split it based on the space. And once whatever the output of that space, so we will get the each word here as an output. So hello will be the first word, and then word will be the second, and then we are mapping through the each word, and each word will come here like as in the s, and we taking the first character of the word and we are uppercasing that word, and adding with that first character and the remaining character. And once we done with the mapping, then I'm joining back again. So let's run this program and see what is the output. So let's go here. Okay, first let's check what split does. So I can comment out this and run. So as you can see, I splitted the entire array here in the words. Now let's see what map is doing. So now you can see I capitalize all the first letter of the each word. Now let's join it. Yeah, so now you can see entire sentence where all the first letter of the word is capital. Now let's talk about filter function. Filter function is something that suppose you have array of elements and you want to filter elements based on some certain criteria. The syntax is very much similar to the map. So you can see here I have one array and I'm applying filter based on the data, and so it's also take a callback function which returns like first element, first data will be argument, will be parameter, will be element. Whatever you return as an output, it like boolean true or false. Based on that, if it is true, then it will be inserted into inside the new array. If it is false, then it will be neglected or it will be removed from the new array. So here what I'm trying to do, I have a list of email. I'm filtering out like all the non-email, all the bad emails from this array. So let's run and see what is the output. So as you can see, I filtered out some of the email. Let's modify this and check how it's work. So if I return true, like each iteration, what will happen? So if you can see here, nothing is filtered out. If I return false, so what will happen? Yeah, nothing is in the new array. Now let's talk about the reduce. Reduce is one of the strongest member of this functional programming or function of this array class. So reduce can be considered as a kind of like combination of map and filter. So suppose you want to filter out some of the things from the array based on certain criteria, and same time you want to modify the content of the map. So you can use reduce. So and reduce is very powerful. So so you can do a lot of things like it's lot of things like you can return something which is not as a is not array. So let's see this program. So here I have a numbers list of the number, array of the numbers, and I want to find greatest among this number. So in traditional way I create a function, and in that function I take a placeholder which keep like highest number, and I iterate through all the element and check whether this number is greater than the placeholder number, and if it is yes, then we assign that number to the placeholder, else we keep placeholder as it is. Same thing we can do with this the reduce function. So let's run and understand. So first let's check the output. So now you can see it here. We get the exact output what we wanted. So like others, there is some different, like others member of the array, there is some difference between this map, filter and reduce. So the biggest difference is also take a argument, a function as an argument, but it's also take another argument in the function, which is kind of like default value, and this value will be used for the first iteration. So how reduce works? So let's split this function to make understand better. So so this is our breakdown function. Okay, so here we can see this is nothing but this is default value, so I can say default value. So for each number it will run one time. So let's see how it works. So yeah, so in the first iteration you can see here, in the first iteration whatever we pass as a default value is assigned to this p, okay, which is nothing but like next kind of accumulator, and this is the n is here like current number. So you can see here we have the first number as 1, and this is the default value which comes here. And once it's done, and whatever the output that you have written, it's become the accumulator for the next iteration. So if I do the simple calculation, math.max, so here 1 is the max among this, so it take 1 as a next input parameter for the next iteration. For next time you can see here it's -1, and similarly it's iterate through all the values. At the end you get the highest among the number. So you should be very careful about the default value, because it can change the output of your code. So suppose if I give some highest number more than the number which is inside the array, then my output can change. So if you see now, the output is completely wrong. So you should be careful what you're passing in the default values. Hmm. Here reduce is not limited to only the numbers or primitive data type. You can also use reduce for some complex programming, something like dealing with the objects. So uh, like here you can see in the example, like we have list of employees and we want to find the employee which is having like highest salary here among them. So let's copy this, how it's working. Let's see how it's working. First run the code. So now you can see here Sanjay has the highest salary among them. So how it works is a similarly it take a function as a parameter. Okay, so I'm passing nothing here as a second argument. I'm just passing the callback function. So my default parameter is something uh, uh, un, uh, undefined. Okay, so what happened for when we run the first time, so my this value become first value, and it comes here and check. Now we have first value, this data as a first value, and we check the salary of the both of them, and whatever whichever having salary, higher salary, I return that salary, that employee. So for next iteration, my p or my first element will become like accumulator, and the second element will come in the current value. So it goes again and again. So at the output we get the uh, higher employed, higher salary. There are some other functions inside array. One of them is like forEach, concat, reverse, sort. These are very known functions, so I think I don't have to talk about them. The recently added functions are every and some. So these are one of the good function API that you can use in the functional programming. So how it works? Every is very simple. It's just check every element inside the array. If every element pass the criteria or callback function, follow the callback function criteria, then it will return true. If any of them like is not matching the criteria, it will return false. Sum is just opposite of every. Is check and if the any of the array list for array element follow the criteria, it will return true, else it will return false. Okay, so let's run the program and see the output. Yeah, so you can see the output. So this is for now. So one of the reason I like functional programming because I'm so lazy to write like thousands of lines. So functional programming helped me to create a small bunch of functions, chunks of functions, and reuse again and again rather than writing same thing in imperative way. So thanks for today. I will talk more about the advanced concept of functional programming some other time.